Christ is my identity. The blood speaks for me. The blood speaks for me. Blood speaks for me. The blood speaks for you. Blood speaks for me. Ami Olúwa, ó ń bẹ lórí mi. The blood speaks for me. The blood speaks for me. Blood speaks for me. Oh, Ami Olúwa, ó ń bẹ lórí mi. I cannot be defeated. Christ is my identity. The blood speaks for me. Say I bear the mark of Christ. I cannot be defeated. Christ is my identity. The blood keeps speaking for me. I bear the mark of Christ. I cannot be defeated. Christ is my identity. The blood speaks for me. I bear the mark of Christ. Somebody declare wherever you are. Christ is my identity. The blood speaks for me. I bear the mark of Christ. I cannot be defeated. Christ is my identity. The blood speaks for me. Somebody open up your mouth and rejoice. Rakosia na bakosena. Aya kame swatelaba. The blood speaks for you. Yeah. The blood speaks for you. Yeah. Come on, declare with me right now. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, àmì Olúwa, ó ń bẹ lórí mi. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, àmì Olúwa. Come on, declare it boldly. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ọ̀rọ̀ sí àná tó náà mọ̀rọ̀ mọ̀. Àmì Olúwa, ó ń bẹ lórí mi. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù, ẹ̀jẹ̀ Jésù.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be joining us. Please confirm in the chat that you can hear me. That would be really good. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, all right, so it's time now. Let's get into it. Thank you. I see you all on YouTube. Sorry, my last live session, I didn't realize that there were people on YouTube. So I'm just making sure that I can see everyone on LinkedIn, YouTube. Hello, Kate. Hello, Ibukuno. Hello, Samuel. Hello, Simfiwe. All right. Okay, so I'm good and clear with everybody. Thank you all so much for joining this beautiful, well, it's morning I'm in Lagos, Nigeria. So it's morning here. Wherever you are, thank you for joining. Thank you so much. Thank you for the feedback. It's really helpful. These live sessions are interesting, but when you don't get feedback, sometimes it feels like you're speaking to yourself, which is very interesting. All right, so let's get into what we're talking about today. We're going to be looking at how to develop a communication strategy, but most importantly, I really want to focus on giving you a framework for creating a strategic communications playbook. So I'm going to be sharing with you, I've developed something which I will be sharing with you now. I thought to do it rather than just tell you how to do it. I wanted to just show you using the templates that I've just created. And this template is now available on my website. So I will be sharing the link to that by the end of the session, but I will just run through that with everyone. And if you have any questions as we go along, my goal is to keep this to about the 1 hour that we have. It's not a lot of time, but that will be the plan. So let me make sure that I'm sharing the right screen and that you can see it properly on all the platforms. Okay. Okay, so I guess everybody should be able to see it properly on all the platforms. Fantastic. Okay, yes. Okay. Sorry, I was just double checking that it's showing well because I'm streaming on different platforms. Just make sure everybody across board can see it well. So I think that's the case. Okay. So welcome again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I usually would say, oh, Nancy has beat me to it. I wanted to say, where are you joining from? So Nancy is from Nairobi, Kenya. Felua is coming or joining in from, I believe, Lagos, Nigeria. Formule, hi. Thank you all so much. Okay, so I think everybody can see my screen where I'm showing the playbook, the live session playbook. But before I go into talking about the playbook, I wanted to tell you about this class coming up on the 1st and the 8th of August, because anyone that's followed me for such a long time, I always talk about really understanding and knowing the strategic communications framework, really understanding what are the foundations, because it would help you. Once you master it, you'll find that you can use it in any context, whether you're working in the finance sector, whether you're working in healthcare, whether you're working in real estate, whether you're working in a development sector. You then contextualize for those unique contexts. So these are just some of the models that we'll be looking at. It's 2 days, 1st of August and the 8th of August. We'll be looking at the fundamentals of strategic communications. We're teaching you the strategic communications framework, measurement models for strategic communications, and then best practices. So it's a great course. It's a paid course. So if you would like to register, that's the link, but I would share it towards the end. But I just wanted to tell you about that first, because if you don't have the right foundation, some of the things that I will be sharing today, you might be like, how will I do this, right? Okay, so let's go into the playbook. I took my time to work on this playbook because I know there's so many templates out there for developing a communication strategy, some comprehensive, some not so comprehensive. And I thought, what would be a good way to create a playbook that people can just use and easily adapt to their context? But aside from just being able to easily adapt it to your context, it's also helping you to understand what are the questions that I should be asking, what are the things that I should be looking out for as I develop my communication strategy. We're in a time and in a period where you cannot afford a copy and paste approach to your communication strategy. It no longer works. The dynamics have changed. The environment has changed and is constantly changing. Your stakeholders have changed. Their concerns are constantly changing. Everything is just going any way it can go. So which means that you have to be dynamic. You have to really know the thinking. You really have to have the mindset. And that's how I created this playbook, which, like I said at the beginning, it's available for download on my website. It was just my gift to everyone, because honestly, I really want to see communicators do great work, be recognized and respected for the great work that we do. Amen. All right. So this framework, or this playbook rather, I built it around what I've called the Ascend framework, and I will break down what that means. And it's really a 6-pillar model that positions strategic communications as a driver of corporate organizational strategy and performance, because that is how important communications is. And it serves as a blueprint for interpreting, executing, and amplifying your corporate objectives or organizational objectives if you work in the development sector in measurable terms. And that's really been the gap for us as communicators, being able to communicate the work that we're doing in tangible organizational terms that people can say, yes, this is actually making a real difference. So what exactly is this Ascend framework? And I hope that you're seeing, I'm showing it live from the Google document. So I have I hope it's as clear as possible. If you need me to expand it a bit further, just let me know. So A is align. Every communication strategy must be aligned. It must be aligned with your organizational goals, your leadership priorities, your long-term strategy. And what that means is that you cannot create a communication strategy just sitting in your office, not speaking to your internal stakeholders, not even engaging with your external stakeholders. It's not possible. So that alignment from the jump, you really need to have that alignment, and you have to ask questions. And I'll be showing you the kind of questions you should be asking. Secondly, you have to sense the environment. It's what we call environmental scanning. You need to be doing some sort of research. You need stakeholder intelligence. You need to be speaking to your stakeholders. I hate assumptions, and assumptions are one of the fastest way in which you can break and derail your communication strategy. And you need data-driven insights. Next, you need to be clear. Who are your audiences? Who are we reaching? What is the message? We are not in that era of one-size-fits-all messaging. What exactly do we want to say to them? And what are the desired behavioral outcomes? Okay, thank you, Chinelo, for the feedback. Thank you, I appreciate it. Then you need to execute your strategy with the right mix of tactics, channels, and timing. Now, this is where a lot of work needs to be done here, because sometimes we think, oh, social media will work, oh, a press conference will work, oh, influencer marketing will work, but you have to be sure. And that's why you have to go through the process of aligning, getting your research, speaking to your stakeholders so that you choose the right mix is very, very deliberate. So you choose the right mix of tactics. Then you navigate risks, issues, and uncertainties, because anything can happen. So your communication strategy is never cast in stone. In fact, sometimes when you get to the end of the year and you're creating a communication strategy, let's say for 2027, 2027 can start and things will happen in the geopolitical landscape that then means that your organization's priorities then shift. And if your organization's priorities shifts, it means that your communication strategy has to shift. So it is not a document that is set in stone. It's actually meant to be a dynamic document. And the final one, which I want more of us to be skilled at, is demonstrating impact through measurements, KPIs, and continuous optimization. Look, you have to keep tweaking, iterating, doing all of that, again, with the data and the insights that you gather. So that's the framework. And I hope you remember it as ascend, align, sense, clarify, execute, navigate, and then demonstrate. So how does this, come to bear within this template? So I'm going to break down each of the sections in terms of building your communication strategy and how this playbook would help you for your own organization. So number one is your organizational context and your strategic priorities. Again, from an organizational lens, this is not you as the communications manager or the communications officer. You need to co-create this with your senior leaders, executives, department leads, just to ensure that you are actually delivering the specific outcomes that they deliver. Now, when I have these conversations, sometimes the pushback is, well, I don't know, we don't have access to leadership. We don't have access to, the executives. And that's okay, because for some people, that's the reality. Sad, but that's what it is. If you do not have access to them, can you find the people that have access to the information that you need? Because you need to know what the corporate vision is. And this is why you have to ask the right questions. What are we doing now? Why are we doing this? What is the big picture? What are we trying to achieve here? Whether it is the head of your department, whatever department communication sits under, whoever it is that can get you this information that you need. If you don't have access to the rooms where the decisions are being made, you need to ask those questions. What are the primary business, organizational, and developmental milestones and priorities that are important to us within this period? For now, you can say second half of 2026, for example. What are the key things, top 3 or 5? You don't want it to be too long. If it's too long, you're going to just spread yourself too thin, because I can bet you don't have such a large team or large resources to execute, right? Then you need to know, what are the challenges that we're facing? Are we facing increased regulatory scrutiny? Is there internal pressure? What is it that is going to influence the success of our corporate strategy? Again, this requires you to ask questions. I'm not expecting that you will know this, but I'm expecting that you will ask the right people within your organization these questions so that you can use it to develop your communication strategy, and then try to get a sense of leadership expectation of communications. This thing, I've seen it so many times where I'm creating a strategy. I'm like, yes, this thing is going to strengthen reputation. This thing is going to do all this great stuff. And the KPI for the business leader is, look, I want to be on the cover of Forbes. And you're like, how is this even relevant to what we're doing? But in his mind or her mind, that's the KPI. That's what they want. So you also have to be clear, because that also helps you to measure expectation. Are they trying to get on Forbes and you're like, this has no correlation with what you want to do? And so you learn to measure that expectation. But it's good to know, what are the outcomes that matter most? Is it investor trust? Are we trying to raise funding and we want to build trust with the investor? Are we trying to get into a new market? What exactly are the outcomes that they want to see, so that you're not doing work and then at the end of the year, they then ask you, what is communications doing? What is communications bringing to the table? This alignment, it is very, very, very important. If they come to you, they've made all the decisions and they say, oh, come, create a strategy. Please take some time to ask questions before you run off and develop any kind of strategy. So here's an example of how this plays out. So the example here is an organization that is financing a financing company. So they want to be the leading infrastructure financing partner for East Africa and the African continent at large. So what are their strategic priorities? Remember, this is from an organizational perspective. It's not from a communications perspective. So they want to secure $500 million in institutional investment. They want to navigate changing cross-border trade regulations. They want to also enhance brand reputation, because nobody's going to give money to anybody they don't trust or whose reputation is wobbly, right? So what are the challenges? Low public awareness, increased regulatory scrutiny, rising competition. Now, let me tell you why just even having this understanding is very, very important. It means that whatever we do from a communications perspective, we must contribute towards helping this organization to secure this $500 million. And someone may be like, are they doing, is it really possible? It is. You can do activities that get them into the right rooms, into the right conversations. It's what they call generating leads, right? Navigating cross-border trade regulations. You can sit with the people who manage regulatory relationships and know, okay, which aspects impacts communications, or which aspects can communications influence. There's such a thing as influence. We can be so influential in our work that even though we don't have direct interface, we can influence certain outcomes. But if you don't have that big picture, you're not able to see the areas where you can make a difference or where you can build influence. And you can see enhanced brand reputation, that sits within 100% within communications. And so for this example, the leadership expectations, they do not want regulatory backlash, because if there's regulatory backlash, it's going to affect them raising any kind of money from anybody. You want to position their executives as thought leaders, and they want to build sovereign investor confidence. And sovereign investor confidence is investing at a national level, investing at a DFI, so development finance institution level. That's what it means. So you want to secure that confidence, because in raising large amounts of money, trust is very important. Investor confidence is very, very important. I hope this is making sense, because I'm really taking my time so that I open your mind, so that when they come to you, you already know the questions you should be asking. So here are some questions that I've put here. What are the organization's top priorities for this period? Emphasis on this period, because it changes as the macroeconomic landscape changes, as things change within and outside of the organization. Their priorities are most likely going to change. What outcomes matter most to your executives and the board as well? What milestones must be achieved in the short, medium, and long term? And what internal or external pressures are shaping the organization's direction? This one requires you to have your ears to the ground, right? To really know what is happening within this industry, what is happening within this country or within this region. So you're not even waiting for people to give you the information. You're actually being proactive. And that's another area where you can show value. The next one is communication opportunities. So remember, the first one is you're aligning with your organizational priorities. What opportunities are here? Now, this is for you. It's not really for the organization. It's for you to know and be able to decide what is within the remit of communications and what is not within the remit of communications. I always say this, not everything is a communications problem. Not everything communications can solve. There are some things that if you have terrible leaders and they are the reason why your trust level is low, if you like, go and do all the campaign in the world, unless something is done about those leaders, nobody's going to trust them, right? If they're the bone of contention. So you have to know what exactly is communications doing. So, like I wrote here, communication is powerful, oh, but it's not magic, and we have to know. So you have to know where you can add real and meaningful value. So what are the areas where strategic narrative, positioning, and the great things that we do, where can you drive organizational and business results? What are the things that are outside communication scope? So things like operational, structural failure, things that have to be fixed by leadership, those things is not, you can flag it, you flag it to them. If there's a chronic culture problem, communications cannot mask that. So you flag it, and then you look at your opportunity areas based on what it is they want to achieve. Look at your priority areas, because again, you want to be thinking in a very, not a linear way, but almost trying to connect the dot between what you do as a communications person and the results that the organization sees. So can I draw a straight line to that? And here's an example based on, starting from or going back to the infrastructure firm. So they want to create, they want to be the leading infrastructure financing firm. So what are the opportunities here? Create an investor relations bridge during major announcements and milestones. Again, because trust and confidence is so important. So that investor relations, and for a lot of organizations, investor relations is actually a different department. But you see, they have to work hand in hand with communication, because there's messaging. There's also, how do we make sure that we build that trust, we build that confidence? You want to improve stakeholder understanding of sustainability commitments, for example, because now regulators are very, very hard on organizations with regards to their ESG. So that might be something. The messaging around fluctuating market regulation, because you want people to know that, look, we are a safe space to invest with, we are aware of this, all of those things. Again, these are just examples. Areas that are outside your scope: project delays, product quality issues. That's one I see a lot. Bad products, very bad products. And you say communications. Communications cannot help you. You have to, product team, go and fix the product. Legal non-compliance. And then you might have said, okay, we'll looking at this now based on the result our organization wants to see: investor relations, reputation management, employee engagement. So like I said, this is for you. You haven't yet decided your strategy, but you're already thinking, what are the possibilities? And you really want to think about the possibilities, so that when you get to the research and data gathering phase, you're either validating some of these things, or you'll just be like, actually, based on the insights that we have, maybe investor relations is not the best way to go, maybe this other direction. But at least you have that broad picture of what the opportunities are. Okay. All right. I'm seeing some more comments. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're all excited to be here. Okay. So the third thing is communications objective. And for those that joined late, this documents that I am sharing from, this is the playbook. I'm just walking you through how to use it. It's available for download on my website. But at least by doing this session, and you can watch the replay, you can know how to use the playbook. That's why I wanted to do it this way. So your communications objectives, I think I've taught about objectives, so I won't say too much. The thing that I will only say with regards to your objective, please, they have to be smart. No more of setting objectives that are vague. No more of setting objectives that you can't tell me how you're going to measure. When you create your objectives, you cannot answer the question, how would I determine that this objective has been achieved? Just know that your objective is not smart. So we know the SMART acronym. What exactly do we want to achieve? How would we know that it has been achieved? Do we have the capacity and time frame to make this happen? Some people, when they will send me, their strategies to review, or I go in-house and I'm speaking with the team, and I'm like, why exactly did you create this kind of objective? You want to do this within 6 months, with this amount of money, with this amount of team members. What do you think you are, Superman? And that's why we suffer burnout a lot. So it has to be achievable. It has to be realistic, easy, practical, given our resources and corporate context. I know there's stretch, but there's stretching that you're getting to breaking points. There is stretching that is absolutely unrealistic, and that's not what you want. And then time bound, there has to be a hard deadline. So there are examples here of SMART objectives. So secure a 25% increase in positive media sentiment among tier 1 financial publication within 9 months to support funding round. So it's very, very clear. So I even need to know my baseline. I already know where I'm starting from, right? So if, for example, media sentiments now is at 100, it means that by the end of this campaign, by the end of this activity, I must see a 25% increase. And I'm looking at tier one financial publication. I'm not looking at a blog that somebody just set up in their backyard. I'm very, very clear. And it is at the end of 9 months. So you have to be that specific and that clear. Now, again, a question that I usually get asked is, oh, how do we know what percentages, what numbers to put in? You need your baseline. Again, I will say this now, we will teach you during the class. Create your baseline, your dashboard right now. What are our numbers? What is the average of our engagement? If you don't know what your average engagement rate is month on month, quarter on quarter, there is a problem because you have the access to your back end, LinkedIn, social media, your website. And if you collate all of that data, you should be able to say what your average engagement or your average comments are, because you have that. And so when you then want to create an objective, you know whether it is realistic to say 50% increase or 100% increase, or to say to double it in 3 months. But if you don't have that figure, if you don't have that baseline, you just be putting numbers there and, it's almost like you're fulfilling all righteousness. So that's that with objectives. Please always set objectives that are smart, and they have to be aligned. You see, this, we started with align with your organizational priorities. The next is your audience and stakeholder mapping, and this falls under the sense and the clarify. So you really need to make sure that your stakeholder communication is highly personalized. We are in that era where it has to be highly personalized, not a one-size-fits-all thing. So you want to use this model called know, feel, do. And so you say to yourself, what do I want regulators to know, feel, and do? What do I want my customers to know, feel, and do? What do I want the media to know, feel, and do with regards to my organization? Again, bearing in mind the overall objective, the overall goals that your organization has. And then that way you can start thinking about how best to influence them. What channels do we need to make sure that are included in our tactics, right? Some people that you're going to reach through LinkedIn, there are stakeholders that they are not on LinkedIn, depending on what it is your organization does. So you have to be very, see, it's a, communications, there's creativity. I love the creativity in it, but it's also very meticulous and scientific to the T, step by step. And so again, I would say, because for some people that are not used to this, it might just seem like a whole lot. Start putting it into practice. And I'm really hoping that this playbook helps you to put it into practice. So what you need to also know about your stakeholder mapping is that it is also a dynamic document. Things shift, things change. So while the social, economic, political, and regulatory landscape shifts, you have to go back to your mapping and just make sure that, okay, my priority, what I need them to know, what I need them to feel is still intact. If there are changes, you need to make those changes. So there's an example here. I'm not going to go through everything, but let's just say investors for the purpose of the example we've been looking at. So investors for this particular organization, they want them to know that the company has proactive risk mitigation and long-term sustainability plans. Because remember, what's the goal? They want to secure $50 million in institutional investments. So they must know that, hey, this organization, I'll not give them 50 million now, then tomorrow they've closed up. Right? How do we want them to feel? They want them to feel confident in leadership's capacity to handle stock market shocks. Tell you what do we want them to do? We want them to commit to capital. They want them to commit anchor capital to the Series B round. So that's funding round. They do all the Series A and all of that. Now, how does this now translate? And you can see priority here high. How does this translate in terms of your messaging, in terms of your tactics? It means that when you are engaging your investors, it means that the priority messaging has to show confidence. You have to be putting things in their face that shows them that, hey, you can trust our leadership. You can trust in this organization. We have our act together. So in the communication materials to the investors, if you're going to do an investor event, those are the things that you are going to be pushing out. So here in this table, you see employees, customers, regulators. Again, these are just examples. It can be as long as, it needs to be, depending on your own context. So the next section, I hope it's clear. Sorry, I should be pausing to, okay, yeah, let me take some comments. Please let me know that this is making sense to you. I see Hepzibah says, what's the purpose of speed in the wrong direction? Yes, honestly. So that's something that I always say, take your time. Ask this question. Don't let anybody rush and pressure you. You have to get things right. you have to get things right. Okay, so just looking through comments. Hi, everyone. Okay, thank you for coming. Just checking. Okay, no comments at the moment, or questions rather. Please, if you have any questions as I go along, please feel free to drop it and I will take it. The next thing is when you then go to your strategy. So you can see all the things that you've done, before. So someone shouldn't come to you and say, oh, we want to go to East Africa, we want to go to this country in Europe, or create for us a strategy and say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do an event. How now? How did you arrive there? How did you know that this is what they need to do? So you have to do your research. You have to get your insight. So that's what the first four rather, getting your insights, speaking to the stakeholders, understanding the landscape, very, very important. So your strategic approach is that overarching anchor for all your activities. So it's that answering that question, how will communications help this organization? What can I do in my capacity as a communicator to help my organization and my senior leaders to achieve the goals and the outcomes they want to achieve? Now, there are many ways that this can be done, but because a lot of times what organizations want to achieve can be quite complex, you might find that it would be nice to have an overarching strategic approach, and then you break it into different pillars or different sub themes based on the different things, so that you don't have. You want to avoid a situation where your strategy is all over the place. You have 10 things you want to do, because realistically, you may not be able to achieve it. So in the example that we were using, the overarching strategic approach is establishing our position as a financial highway for emerging market growth by demonstrating uncompromised regulatory compliance, operational transparency, market shaping executive thought leadership. Now, your strategy has to be data driven. You have to do the research. You have to see where is a sweet spot for us. What is the direction? Which approach would help us to achieve this? And that's where the science comes in. There's also intuition, because again, if you've done this over a period of time, you kind of know what works, but you also have to validate your intuition with data as well. So you don't go blindly with data. And when you also want to get buy-in, your buy-in can't just be based on intuition alone. There has to be something backing it up. So here you can then say, okay, we want to build executive presence and thought leadership. So we position as C-suite leaders, as authoritative voices. We want to do transparent compliance and trust communication. So we proactively communicate things regarding our risk compliance protocols to B2B clients, regulators. We want to demystify, the market. So using content, so helping our audiences really understand what exactly is financial infrastructure, because you want to make sure that they really understand what you're doing, right? Especially for those who are not financially savvy. Then you may say internal alignments. You want to make sure that within the organization, there's also alignments. We're all saying the same thing. So you can see here now, there's no brand awareness, because a lot of communication strategy that I say, I always see brand awareness a lot. But you see this educational content, if you do it and you do it well, you're going to get brand awareness. But you're going to get brand awareness and also improved understanding of what it is that your organization is doing. So this is why I said, don't just fall into that, oh, brand awareness, all the things that we usually know how to do. Make sure that you do your research and really think creatively about what exactly would really, really, really help us to achieve this goal and the objective. And some key questions that you want to ask is, what's the overarching strategy that we're going to adopt? How will communication support the organizational outcomes? Like I said before, you need to be able to see a direct line between what you are doing and the outcomes that they want to see, because that's where you're going to demonstrate and show value and impact. Can I draw a straight line between the strategic approach and the intended impact? If you cannot, you still have to go back to the drawing board. And then the next section is where you execute. Tactics don't execute in a vacuum. Please don't be that person that says, oh, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to do an event. Okay, what we're going to do is that we're going to do an email blast. How? What is it anchored on? How do you know it's going to work? And the reason why you shouldn't do that, because when you do it, because you haven't taken all of these steps, you don't know where you're starting from. You don't know, you don't have your baseline. You don't know, you've not spoken to your audiences. You don't even know if it's going to work. Then even if it works, how would you show the causative effect? How would you say that, oh, because we did this email blast or this newsletter campaign, how would you say that this it's because of this that this changed when you didn't do all of these first things. So remember, don't create tactics in a vacuum. They have to be anchored on something, also have to be mapped to your audiences. If you choose to do, maybe every week you send a newsletter concerning something, maybe you're about to release a particular product and you choose that newsletter approach, make sure that that newsletter, your core audiences are actually going to read it, right? Or do we want to adopt a multi-channel approach? So you see it in your newsletter, you see it in social media, you see it when you're going out of home advertising, for example. Or do we want something that is more executive based because of the kind of people that it has to be, you see, all of these decisions, you can see how when you get to that granular detail, it changes a lot about what you do. So you must translate your strategy into action using the right tactics. Again, I just put some examples in this table. So you can say CEO thought leadership. We're focusing on investors and regulators. We've used LinkedIn, long form articles, posting in Financial Times. Our timeline, maybe we'll do it from first quarter to fourth quarter. You put your budget and then your success indicator. Now, let me say something here about audiences, because sometimes people just say every audience, all audience. Yes, I know that you want to reach a lot of people, but if you don't define the people that you are writing for, you know that it's not possible to write for everybody. It's not possible to communicate to everybody in the same way. Why? Because everybody is looking, the different groups of stakeholders and audiences you have, they are looking and receiving information from different lenses and different filters. And so your one message cannot communicate across all of those filters at once. It's not possible. It's really not possible. And so you have to be clear. These are thought leadership. Who is it for? Now, people outside of investors and regulators will obviously read your CEO's LinkedIn, long form articles and Financial Times, but they are not your core target audience. They can now be your secondary target audience, right? So you can then decide in the content calendar for your CEO, if you decide that your CEO is going to post 3 times a week, or that, although that's actually very large for a CEO, but let's just say you decide that, okay, 3 times a week, we want to post something on our CEO's page. You can decide that 2 of those posts will be directed at your core target audience, which is investors and regulators, and then 1 will be for the rest that are not in the core, so that you still speak to, so you may put something inspirational, motivational, something a bit light-hearted, but then you have your 2 focused on your core audience. So that's how you should think about it. Don't make that mistake of saying, no, we're trying to talk to everybody. You can't talk to everybody. It's not possible. And then have your success indicators, right? So we're posting on our CEO's channels. We've been posting for the last 6 months and 1 year. What has come out of it? Do we have international features? Are people reaching out in the DM to feature our CEO, for example? Do we have inbound invitations? What exactly has happened? And you have to be tracking some of these things. What difference is it making? Engagement on our CEO's pages and platforms, has it changed? So you have to be monitoring the back end of your CEO's LinkedIn. You have to know, before we started this, where was he or where was she? What were the numbers? Now that we've started, what are the numbers now? Are people quoting things from our CEO's op-eds? Are they using it in other content on social media? Are they speaking about it in industry events? That's how you know what you're doing is working. So these are other examples. I won't go into that, but I just put it there to also help you to just see how broad it can be in terms of your tactics. Okay, we're finally getting to the end because I really do want to take questions. Risk identification and mitigation. If you know you should think about risk before today, please, going forward, you have to think about risk. You have to anticipate and prepare for it, because we are living in a volatile world. Very, very, anything can happen. Besides, I listen to the news, I'm like, hey, which one is this one again? So anything can derail your organization strategy and your own communication strategy, internal pressures, budget cuts, those things. So you have to prepare for that. So you have the regulatory changes, social unrest, supply chain disruptions, and we've seen that with the Iran war, leadership transitions, negative media exposure. Unhinged, though, someone just wake up one day and decide to write something about your company. So you have to really think about what are the risks, and you want to do the scenario planning, like if this happens, how will we deal with it? So this is already going into the the territory of issues management and crisis communication, but just that scenario planning, having a crisis response plan. But at the very least, every communication strategy should have a table where you're looking at the risk, likelihood of happening, and what you're going to do to mitigate. Right? So for example, this regulatory licensing delays, it is not a communication problem, but it is a risk for you, because remember what your organization is trying to do. And so you can see that the owner here, it doesn't sit with communication, but communications can be flagging it. So I don't want you to say, oh, this thing has nothing to do with communications, or so I put my hands off. No, you're part of the organization. And so for you to even be that critical value partner, there are things you can be flagging. There are things you can do to support them in achieving whatever goals that they have. And that's where they begin to see you just as beyond being communicator, but as an integral business driver, organizational driver, because you are thinking 360 and not just from a mindset of communications. So these are just some examples. So if you have negative media exposure, for example, you can have your draft holding statements, your fact sheets, spoken to your whether it's your legal counsel, PR counsel. This sits in PR. So you're just very sure of that. When you have, or if you have budget cuts, for example, you know what exactly you would prioritize. So those are just examples of things that you may want to flag from a risk perspective. And then the final one is your metrics, your KPIs, and your measurement plan. You have to show the value. Don't assume that, I'm working so hard, I'm spending late nights, they should know that I'm working hard. No, they will not know. It's for you to show that value and show that beyond the metrics that we normally measure. So your followers, impressions, engagement. I don't call them vanity metrics because I believe they are important. They are a means to an end. The problem is making them an end in themselves. How do we now transition to business perception and performance indicators? So you can decide which indicators you want. And there is a resource that I've recommended previously, and maybe I'll post it in the comment section of the two platforms. It's Taxonomy of Metrics. It's by Professor Jim McNamara. Is very, very great at measurement. I learned a lot from him, and also AMEC as well. That's an organization that you definitely should follow. So that way you don't have to think about it from scratch. They've already done the work. It's a document. Just look for the one that applies to you. And they've even told you, so there's a list of metrics there, what you can use to measure it. So start with that. Soon enough, when you do this, for a long time, you already know the KPIs that you need. So you can decide share of voice. So regional media share of voice, you want to see it increase from 15% to 35%. Internal alignment, employee confidence in corporate leadership. How do you measure that? Polls, internal survey, lead generation, qualified organic inbound lead grows by 25%. How do you measure that? What are the inquiries that we're getting, whether via emails, phone calls, or whatever channels that you guys use or your organization uses in terms of generating leads, on getting interest and all of that. So this is a table that you can have it there, your KPI, what we're measuring, the measurement tool, and the reporting frequency. So that really helps you. Now for reputation, for example, you want to demonstrate return on investment in reputation. You need more than one tool. Another mistake I see or sometimes make is that we want a one-size-fits-all tool. And there really isn't any one size fits all tool. I'll be very, very honest with you. There's no one size fits all tool. However, you can use different kinds of tools to get the information that you need, which is why you need to be clear, what exactly is this metric that I want to measure. So the playbook ends with checklists. So at the end of it, have we defined, do we have clearly defined organizational priorities? If you don't, ask your senior leaders. Are communications objectives linked to commercial, operational, development goals? Have we aligned with leadership on expectations? Please, this is very important. There has to be some sort of alignment. Then under the sense, have we conducted research, environmental scanning? Don't create any strategy without doing research. You need data, you need insights. Thankfully, you have AI now that can help you to do robust research, but always remember that AI can hallucinate. So don't just rely on AI alone, but do your own research. Do you understand what your stakeholder needs are, their concerns, their motivation? How have you used your stakeholder data and insights? Have you used them to identify gaps between actual perception and the desired reality? Because see, when you do this data gathering process, it always speaks, it always reveals something, it always communicates, it always shows areas where you can take action on. And then under clarify, our audience is clearly segmented. Do we understand what we want them to know, feel, and do for each of the group? So each go through, it has to be highly personalized. Is there a strategic narrative that is clear and compelling? Then under execute, our tactics align with our strategy and the audience insights that we've received. So you can see that when you do all of these things, they are connecting points, and it's going to really optimize the success rate of your strategy. There's no strategy that is, oh, you do a strategy 100%, because there are other things that can influence that strategy, but you put it in a place where it's highly likely to succeed if all things go well. Do you have clear owners for each activity that you have outlined, timelines, budget, and then are you prepared to adjust your tactics if needed? You have to be very, very flexible, and you have to, this flexibility is really, really needed. So that's why I said nothing is cast in stone. So be as flexible as possible. That's risk planning. Think about, if this doesn't go well, if we do this event and people don't come, what are we going to do? If this doesn't achieve the desired outcome, which is why your evaluation has to start from the very beginning, not at the end. So if by month one, you've not even hit a quarter of the number you want to reach, alarm bells should be ringing that, hey, something is not right here. And then you can quickly course correct. Have we identified potential risks? Are there mitigation plans in place? Do we have any escalation protocols? And then do we have clear KPIs that are aligned with the objectives? There's no point having KPIs that have nothing to do with your objectives. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help your organization. Do you have the tools to measure impact? Very, very important. How will I measure this? If you need to use a tool that is expensive to measure, then you have to go and look for a low-cost tool or a number of free tools that will give you the information that you need. And then, is there a reporting rhythm for leadership? Are we going to be reporting monthly? Are we going to be reporting quarterly? And that's something that I really would like to see us do more, because sometimes we leave reporting to the end of maybe the activity that we're doing or till the end of the year. And so when you don't hear from me, it's almost that thing they say, out of sight is out of mind. It most feels like you're not doing anything. But you have to create it, even if it doesn't exist within your organization, where you're keeping them in the loop. This is communications this month. This is what we did. This is what we achieved. This is what we've noticed, so that they can see that, oh, these people are actually doing great work, because you are doing great work. And that really is the end of the playbook. So I hope that this would help you when you're developing your strategy, and you can use this playbook and tweak it. So I really deliberately created it in such a way that you can tweak it for your own context. There are questions that the questions there would help you to, okay, think through, this is what I should be asking. This is what information that I should be getting. If you can't get access to the decision-making rooms, identify people that have the information, ask them this question. So you can put a watertight strategy together that you're happy with, and then that also helps you to support your organization to achieve their goals and objectives. So I hope this has been valuable. So let me take questions. Sorry, I haven't been looking at, all right. So I see some questions on LinkedIn. So let me start. Who completes the no feel do? So it's communications that will fill it out. It's, you can do desk research. So once you do your research of your stakeholders, you understand their priorities, you understand their concerns, you do the no feel do from a communications perspective. So based on the information that I have about what is important to this stakeholder, what is their need, what is their priority, what do I want them to know? So if, for example, you are maybe it's a digital bank, for example, and maybe you want to reach women, you want to tell women in low income communities to come and save with you. There is, that there's that trust element. There's that thing about, oh, okay, well, my $100 be $100 when I want to come and withdraw it. Will the money still be intact? So what you want them to know in that kind of situation is, you can trust us, and there are no hidden charges, or there are no hidden surprises. We're here to help you grow your money, kind of thing. Now, for another group of people, that may not be the message, and that may not be their no, because that's not their concern or priority. Same thing with the feel. For them, you want them to trust you. You want them to, you want them to, come and bring their money to your bank. So that's how so you have to do it using the insights from your stakeholder research, and which is why it has to be highly personalized. But you start with researching your stakeholders. What is their priority right now? What are their concerns? And then where does that organization fit into it? And it builds on that concept of, there's that quote of people really not caring how much you know until they know how much you care. So it's almost like you're crafting that messaging from the lens of that specific stakeholder. So I hope that helps, Rona. Okay. Yes, Victor, there will be a replay on LinkedIn and YouTube. Hi, Michael. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Oh, thank you, Chinelo, for answering. Level gang, I just saw that comment. It's true, that brand awareness. I see it every time. The brand. I say, what exactly is this brand awareness? And you know what I do sometimes? Because I also fall into that WhatsApp group, and it's very easy to fall into that place of what's familiar. But ask yourself, what do I mean by brand awareness? Break it down. I like to break things down because when you then break it down, you realize that actually maybe it's not brand awareness I'm looking for, because brand awareness is so broad. And say, what does this mean? And then when I now ask that question and people answer, what I realize is you're trying to improve understanding. You're trying to, improve perception. They said, so it's not brand awareness. It's more than that. So yeah, I always, even when I write it, I was like, are they doing brand awareness? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What exactly do we want them to do here? Yes, set a baseline and they must never exist in a vacuum. Yes. Yes, Olajide, this is currently should be on my website now. I will post the link for direct download in the chat that we can use. But yes, please, it's going to be available. Hi, Charmaine. Thank you so much for joining from Namibia. Yes, so since everybody is asking about the playbook, so let me put in the comment section now the link so that okay, so I'm trying to type in the link. I should have actually posted this before now. Don't mind me. Strategic comms playbook. Okay, all right. Okay, I've missed out on okay, here it is. Strategic. So I'm typing it now. LinkedIn, guys, please, I will type it very soon. Yes, so I've posted it now. It's live on my website. Okay, so let me see the other questions. If you have any questions on YouTube, please post it. I see all the comments. I'm very happy because I couldn't figure it out the last time. Yes, let me see. Okay, same thing if Lua isn't so detailed. On the website, no, it's the same document. It's the same document, but I would check it after the replay, but it's the same document. Yes, please. Everybody's asking for the document. Reference for the KPIs. So what I would do is, since I've mentioned it, I will, once we finish, because it's a live Google document, I will put the link to the two measurement resources that I mentioned. I think that would be the easier thing for everyone to do. So same thing, Victoria, taxonomy of metrics. So I will put it. Oh, thank you. Miracle has answered that. All right. Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Free tools. So free tools. So let me tell you how I navigate free tools, right? So once I know what it is that I want to measure, I just go on Google and look for tools that measure that particular thing. So you can find like 3 or 4 tools and the thing with free tools is, especially now, free tools don't give you comprehensive information. Before they used to, but they don't give you comprehensive information. And sometimes they'll tell you to sign up for like a week or 2. But if you know exactly what it is that you want to get out, what you want to measure, I try to combine like 3 or 4. So I typically like to use Brand24. There's brand Mentionlytics, there's Coverage Book, but these things are very, very pricey. So I try to look for the free tools. Again, I use Google. So sometimes I might use a tool and I may not use it again after that particular period because it gives me the information I need in that time. So you have to be very clear. What do we want to exactly measure from this free tool? Joy, yes, Joy is going to be on YouTube as well as, yes. Hi, Lamek, yes. I love the audience focused mindsets and how exactly So it almost helps the stakeholder to feel that priority, like you're actually speaking to me as opposed to just sending me generic organizational messaging that has nothing to do with me. Oh, I'm glad that it was useful, Samuel, Regina. You're welcome, Dominic. So how do we handle fluctuating priorities from some stakeholders that sometimes contradict those of the organization? That's a very, very important question, because there are times where what stakeholders want or demand is in conflict with what your organization wants. So first of all, the starting point is to know what are their expectations, and then you give that feedback. So an essential role that we play as communications people is that we give feedback to leadership in terms of, okay, this is what this stakeholder is asking for, this is what they require. They will go and do the negotiations, but you can flag it. Now, depending on how, at odds or how opposite or misaligned the expectations are, you might also be able to make suggestions, right? So don't just say, oh, here's a problem. You can think about, okay, where is the middle point for this particular stakeholder? Is it a kind of situation where we need to invite them in, we need to bring them in, have a discussion? Because sometimes some of these expectations, maybe because they felt they've not been heard, they felt they don't really trust the organization, so you may want to make those kind of suggestions, but you can't communicate in such a way that you now appease them or make them happy to the detriment of your organization. So it can be a fine thin line, but at least awareness of the fact that they have this expectation is the starting point. And then you can now ideate with leadership on how best to manage this particular stakeholder, manage this expectation. And the thing with human beings, we shift in our expectations and our priorities. So some negotiations may need to be done, some influencing. Yeah. So depending on what it is, you may then provide guidance, but at least just knowing helps you to flag it to leadership as well. Okay, Samuel says, been asking, you mentioned two sources. Yes, AMEC and Dr. Jim McNarama. Sorry, I had said that I will put the link of those two things in this resource as well. But Jim McNarama, Jim, that McNarama, do I even know how to spell it well? But I think it's MacNamara. So that's him. But I would also put it in this. So if you check it, let me say maybe 10 minutes afterwards, I'll put it in, since everybody is asking for it. All right. Yes, the presentation. Yes, this document will be available. Yes, it will. Interesting. Okay, so what I would do is, if it's not working, that means it's not gone live. I see. Okay, so after this, it will be live. Just give it 10 minutes. Once we're done, I will just make sure that it is live in the back end, but it will be live on my website. It's already scheduled, so I guess probably I scheduled it to go up by 12. I think that's what I did. Yes, I think that's what I did. So it's probably going to go up by 12. All right. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Keman. Miracle, did you get the name Jim McNarama? Okay, so can I share anything related to global communication demand and shaping change via AI? That's a whole different topic. But I think what I would say regarding AI, ladies and gentlemen, we have an opportunity to use AI collaboratively to really strengthen our work. What I've seen is us, outsourcing our thinking, making us do, AI is doing the writing, AI is doing the ideating. I don't think it's the greatest way to use AI. Maybe I should do a session on the best way, because you also want to keep your strategic competitive advantage. You don't want to be in that position where someone can say to you, oh, but AI can do this for me. So it's, how do I leverage AI to do those high level things or deliver high level outputs, right? So things that will save you time, so that you are thinking, so that you're strategizing, because all of these things that we're talking about strategy, if you're bogged down doing tactical work, you don't have time to be thinking on a strategic level. So how do I leverage AI, use it in a collaborative way? So I'm not outsourcing my thinking, my creative process completely, but I'm using it to optimize my time so that I can do more strategic things and activities. So that's something that I would definitely say is what we can do with regards to that. So I hope that helps. Okay. All right, Samuel. Okay, I'm seeing your comment. All right, any more questions? Thank you all so much for joining. And yes, thank you so much, Dinchi, for the reminder. We have the strategic communications course that's happening from the first two Saturdays, first Saturday in August and the second Saturday in August. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to look through that framework. We're going to be talking about measurement as well, show you how to create a dashboard that you can use to all of these data. I always say that you don't realize how much data you currently have as a communications person. You actually don't know. And once you're able to use and optimize that data, you can use it to make decisions, you can use it to influence, but you don't, if you've not aggregated it, then it's not helpful to you, right? So we're going to be looking at that. So it's a paid course. If you're able to, please register, and then I'll be sharing more. And anyone that's, engaged with me, me, I just love to share knowledge. My dream and my goal is to help communications people to succeed. And so that's what I want to, that's what I want to do with this class. So if you're able to, it'll be great for you to join us as well. Thank you, Dinchi. Dinchi has put that. So I have a question. When developing a communication, is it enough to consult internal stakeholders, or is it best practice? Oh, internal and external is best, because there's the internal element, but there is also the external element. So you have to try, and it might be tricky with external, but sometimes you may need to do a survey depending on what exactly it is that you want to do. You may want to do a survey, do some sort of post. For some, you may have to do a one-on-one engagement, for example, and that's really, really important, because you don't want to make assumptions about your stakeholders. So don't just limit it to internal stakeholders. Also think about people on the external side of things. So I hope that helps. Okay, that's Esther. How to manage with a board of directors who relate communication into something not important, where everybody can give direction. So that one, it's a challenge that a lot of communications professionals change, and it's something that you need to have a long-term approach to fixing that. So you need to think about, okay, how do we demonstrate value? And I always like to think about it from a perspective of value. How do I show value in such a way that they can see that this is delivering results? So, if you came from the beginning, I spoke about organizational priorities. How can we use communications in such a way that we are delivering the priorities for the organization? That is a very, very critical starting point. How do we make sure that whatever it is their priorities within this organization, we are delivering it from a communication perspective? So that's a starting point that you may want to consider, right? And then when you now deliver this result, you then begin to show them. So I always say that you're doing the work, you understand that they're not valuing you, but it's now your responsibility to start showing them that this is what communications delivered. It requires a lot of energy, I'm not going to lie. It requires intentionality, but you really have to take charge of that process of saying, this is what we've done, this is what we achieved, but tie it into what they find relevant, what is a pressing priority, a low-hanging fruit, if you want to use business terminologies, and they begin to use that to get buy-in, get influence. Sometimes you may want to identify, because sometimes you can say, oh, the board does it. There may be people on the board that actually understand the value of the board. You might actually use them, and that's power of influence. Start with those ones and let them influence their fellow board or fellow executive teams, almost like you get a communications ally within your executive team, within your communications team. So you see, this thing, there's a lot of people management involved. There's a lot of understanding the dynamics within your organization, and there's a lot of perseverance and long suffering involved. So I hope that helps. Okay, so I've been alerted that the playbook is live now. So please, let's check again using that link. I hope that bit.ly link exactly should be live, but it's on my website now at the moment. So you can see the playbook. Can you give an example of how to collaborate with AI? You want me to go into what's the time? Hey, I have 2 minutes. Okay, let me see the other questions. Okay, guys, let's do a session on that, because I cannot answer it in 2 minutes. Someone says, you mentioned that not one AI tool helps with measurements. Is it possible to build one? To Mockrack does many in one place, sells here in Nigeria. So What I mean is that if you use like this small crack, for example, you will find that there are indicators and metrics that it will not be able to measure for you. So there isn't any one size fit. It's almost like going to the back end of Instagram, for example, and hoping to see what your LinkedIn metrics or your LinkedIn data is. You're not going to see it. That's what, that's what I mean. Now, of course, they are improving some of these measurement tools, but you may find that there are some things that is only when you do a survey that you can get that data. No external data is going to get it for you. There's some things that you will need to do a poll. You will need to have seen a track. When you have data that you have pulled for months, you need to have seen that. That's what will give you that information when you've pulled everything together. More crack may not give you, Brand 24 may not give you, which is why I was saying at the beginning, really determine what exactly is it that I want to measure and what is the best tool. All of these tools, they have limitations. Even the best of them, they do have limitations, and you have to be aware that those limitations exist. All right. Okay. Yes, and you're so right, Samuel. I'm saying that they're trained with Western. Yes, exactly. There's also that the African context, the uniqueness of our market is not factored in as well into a lot of these tools. That's so true. Okay, all right. Let me take one more question. In a situation where the organizational objectives are not realistic, what can comes do to suggest course correction? This is where you need to build your influence internally. You have to flag it, and you have to flag it in a way that your executive team can process it. So it's not for you to not say, you people, this your objective is totally unrealistic. You may not have the positional clout to be able to say it like that. But so when I want to flag something to leadership, I like to communicate in a way that they would understand. Leadership usually understand numbers. They usually understand things on graphs, depending on what kind of leader that they are. And so I use examples, I use benchmarks, I show them trends, I show them things that communicates the message. Now, if I find that I don't have the positional clouts, that means that, I'm not within that in terms of my level to speak to them and tell them this thing is not unrealistic. I find the person that can do it too. That's the power of influence. It doesn't have to come from me, are they doing? But I just need my message. I look for the medium. I just need my message to be passed across, right, to the right person. So that's what you can do in that kind of situation where you want to give them that feedback. Think about how best they will process it, and also know that, and this is another reality, it took me a very long time to really understand this reality, that they may not also, they may not align. So it's one thing to give them counsel, it's another thing for them to take it. It used to pay me very much where I will give counsel and they're not taking my counsel. But yeah, so just to flag that as well. Thank you all so much. I'm really, really grateful for your time. Today's Wednesday. The playbook is now live. I would also include the links to the two resources I mentioned at the bottom of the document. If you have any questions at all with regards to using the playbook, please feel free to drop a comment or send me a DM, or you can, on my website, there's a link where you can send me a direct message and I will be happy to answer your questions. And this replay is going to be on YouTube and LinkedIn, so you can watch it again so that you can, follow the step-by-step guide on how to use this playbook. Thank you all so much, and see you in the next LinkedIn Live. Bye.